You're sitting there sipping your cheap sparkling wine thinking you're absolutely killing it, but darling, high society is laughing behind your back. I'm Duchess Dollars, and today I'm going to save you from a social humiliation you didn't even know you were experiencing. And let's agree, nothing's worse than thinking you're shining when you're really just glittering like cheap market jewelry. Do you know what separates the truly rich from those who just pretend to have money? It's not the black card or the imported car. It's the small etiquette details nobody taught you because you weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth like I was. But don't worry, your friend Duchess is here to teach you how not to embarrass yourself when you finally meet your millionaire boy. And I know you will find him. Or create your own empire because staying poor just isn't an option. 1. Saying, pleased to meet you. The first mistake poor people make is saying pleased to meet you when being introduced to someone. My love, that's so middle class. The elite replace it with a simple, how are you? Or, it's a pleasure. Why? Because saying it was a pleasure to meet someone you've just seen for the first time presumes you already like the person, which isn't sophisticated at all. We never show excessive enthusiasm, darling. Leave that to people who need to sell perfume at department stores. Last week, I saw a socialite make this mistake with a European prince, and I nearly died of secondhand embarrassment. She practically jumped for joy upon meeting him, while he merely raised an eyebrow. The result? She wasn't invited to the private dinner afterward. 2. Introducing yourself. Another mistake that makes me want to hide my Chanel in the closet. Introducing yourself. If you had grown up in Aspen like me, you'd know that in old money circles, someone must introduce you. That's how rich people's networking works. When Mr. Millionaire introduced me during our weekly golf game, I knew exactly how to behave. Introductions are a social validation, darling. If nobody introduces you, you don't exist. It's like that episode of The Crown where Princess Margaret commits a faux pas by approaching Jackie Kennedy without being formally introduced. Even in royalty, this is a capital sin. If you're alone at an event and want to meet someone interesting or interested, wait patiently until a mutual acquaintance makes the introductions. Meanwhile, pretend to be too busy admiring the architecture or the wall art. 3. Holding a champagne flute by the bowl. And speaking of golf, let's move on to the third mistake. Holding a champagne flute by the bowl. Just remembering gives me chills. High society holds it by the stem, not only to keep the drink at the ideal temperature, but also to avoid leaving fingerprints on the crystal. Nothing screams nouveau riche like a glass stained with your fingerprints. I had to teach this to Mr. Millionaire when we met, poor thing. He had money, but held his glass as if he were grabbing a life preserver. I almost ended everything right there. The way you hold your glass says more about your background than any resume. Observe people at the next event. You'll immediately identify who grew up with a butler and who's still paying off their apartment loan. 4. Excessive gratitude. Now, the fourth mistake that makes the true elite roll their eyes, thanking too much. An elegant thank you with a slight smile or nod is all you need. Excessive gratitude conveys insecurity, as if you don't deserve to be there. And darling, even if you don't deserve it, nobody needs to know that. At last spring's gala ball, an emerging socialite thanked the host 7 times in 5 minutes. It was so embarrassing that even the waiters started exchanging glances. The rule is simple, thank once with confidence and move on. When I received my new sports car for my birthday from Mr. Millionaire, I just smiled and said, I love it, it's perfect, and proceeded to try it out. No drama, no 1,000 thank yous. Excessive gratitude is for those who aren't used to receiving. 5. Talking about money. The fifth, and perhaps the most glaring, talking about money. True wealth is never announced, only demonstrated. Last week, I was on my private jet heading to Monaco, and a guest asked how much my watch cost. I almost had to open the door mid-flight. Wealth is like an expensive perfume, darling. It should be noticed, not announced. It's like that scene in Succession when Connor Roy makes the mistake of mentioning how much his apartment cost during dinner. The silence that followed was deafening. If someone asks how much something of yours cost, look slightly surprised and respond with something vague like, it was a gift, or, actually, I never pay attention to those details. For the elite, discussing figures is as vulgar as eating with your mouth open. 6. Being too polite. You also need to stop the 6th mistake, being too polite. That's right. Excessive apologies and forced smiles sound like a desperate attempt to please. Naturalness and confidence are more valued. When I spilled champagne on a tech magnate's shoe, I just said, "What a shame, it was good champagne," and moved on. He laughed. And now we have neighboring chateaux in France. Did you know that Grace Kelly, when she was Princess of Monaco, was famous for her calm confidence? She never excessively apologized for small incidents, she just handled them with elegance and moved on. The difference between a rich person and someone pretending to be rich is that the latter is constantly saying sorry for existing. Stop that immediately. Your presence is a gift, not an inconvenience. 7. Making food demands. The 7th mistake is making demands about food. Last Tuesday, I was dining at the Four Seasons with Mr. Millionaire when they served something I despise. You know what I did? I simply didn't eat it. Zero drama, zero explanations. High society doesn't make a scene if they don't like something. They just discreetly move food around the plate and continue the conversation about reducing taxes for billionaires. Remember when Madonna caused a scandal by requesting a special menu at a starred restaurant in Paris? The press loved it, but the truly rich were horrified. If you have real dietary restrictions, discreetly inform the event organizer in advance. On the day, nobody needs to know you don't eat gluten. Just silently select what you can eat and distract everyone with your brilliant conversation about the best resorts in Bali. 8. Dressing ostentatiously. The 8th mistake that makes me want to change tables. Dressing too flashy or incorrectly. The truly rich avoid excesses or clothes with huge logos. Discreet elegance and tailored pieces are preferred. My grandmother always said, "Duchess, if someone can identify the brand of your clothes from more than a meter away, you're doing it wrong." That's why the most expensive Bottega Veneta bags have no visible logo. It's also why the most expensive Carolina Herrera looks simpler than the cheapest one. It's the small details, the perfect fit, the impeccable fabric, the invisible seams. Observe the richest women in New York. They don't wear diamond-covered watches during the day, nor do they carry bags with huge monograms. True wealth whispers, it doesn't shout. As Coco Chanel would say, elegance is the absence of vulgarity. 9. Using your phone during meals. 9th mistake, checking your phone during meals. If you see someone doing this at a gala event, you can be sure they're newly rich or, worse, an influencer trying to infiltrate. The genuinely wealthy keep their phones put away. When I have lunch with my secret crush, Elon, don't tell Mr. Millionaire, our phones never appear at the table. This demonstrates not only respect for those present, but also that you're not desperate for attention or external approval. Only those who constantly need to prove their status check notifications every 5 minutes. During a dinner at the Met Gala last year, I observed a celebrity, whom I won't name to avoid being sued, obsessively checking Instagram under the table. Meanwhile, a true oil heiress was animatedly conversing without touching her phone once. Guess who seemed more important? Exactly. 10. Over-explaining. The 10th mistake is explaining too much. The elite are objective and polite. If you can't attend an event, just say, "I won't be able to attend, but I'd love to next time." No long stories about scheduling problems or conflicting commitments. The less you explain, the more important you seem. Jackie Kennedy was a master at this. She never gave unnecessary justifications. When I needed to cancel my participation in the charity ball, I simply sent a card saying, "Unfortunately, I won't be able to attend. My best wishes for the event." No explanations about the fact that I was actually at a spa in Switzerland. Unnecessary details are for people who feel they need to justify themselves, and those who have true power never feel that need. 11. Correcting someone in public. 11th, correcting someone in public. Even if that socialite is pronouncing Givenchy completely wrong, high society never points out pronunciation or information errors. We prefer to maintain elegance and avoid embarrassment. Afterward, of course, we discreetly comment on the error in our exclusive WhatsApp group. At a diplomatic reception, I heard a famous person refer to a Monet as a Manet. And do you know what all the sophisticated guests did? Absolutely nothing. They continued smiling and nodding. Later, of course, the mistake was discussed extensively in private circles. The best way to demonstrate your superiority is not by publicly humiliating others, but by being so gracious that no one notices your silent judgment. As the saying goes among European aristocracy, true nobility doesn't correct, it only observes. 12. Trying too hard to impress. And finally, mistake number 12, and perhaps the most revealing, trying too hard to impress. True refinement comes from self-assurance. When you stop trying to prove you belong to the elite, that's when you'll finally start to look like part of it. The richest heir I know drives a normal car, lives in a beautiful but not ostentatious house, and never, ever mentions his assets. Meanwhile, the new millionaire buys a Lamborghini as his first car, a disproportionate mansion, and finds a way to mention his private jet in every conversation. Guess which one is truly respected? Old money knows it doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. As my grandmother used to say, those who don't need to appear to be. If you're always trying to convince others of your importance, you've already lost the game. And a special bonus for my most loyal followers: never, ever show surprise. If you walk into a room and see 3 presidents, 2 princes, and a supermodel, act like it's any ordinary Tuesday. The true elite are never impressed by status or fame. Last week, I was at a dinner where a Hollywood star showed up by surprise. Do you know who got hysterical asking for selfies? Exactly. The nouveau riche. The true aristocrats barely looked up from their plates. And don't worry if you've already made all these mistakes. Most people will never know the difference between champagne and cheap sparkling wine. But you, darling, deserve to know the truth. Because there's nothing sadder than a woman who could be rich pretending she doesn't care about money. As I always say, being single is no reason to be sad. Being poor is. You may not have been born an heiress like me who came into the world already tired because my parents worked so hard to get rich. But that doesn't mean you have to live like a commoner for the rest of your life. Etiquette is the secret language of the rich, and now you have the complete dictionary. Use it wisely, and perhaps one day we'll meet at the polo match. You with your millionaire husband and me pretending not to have a crush on Elon Musk while Mr. Millionaire isn't looking. If you want to stop being what I affectionately call an ex-sucker, subscribe to the channel right now and hit the bell. Leave a like if you want to learn to be rich and live that glamorous life you deserve. I've left links for luxury products in the first pinned comment for you to start your journey in the world of opulence. Remember what we learned today: true wealth is in the details that nobody teaches you. And you just received the lesson that will separate you from common people at the next high society party. Rich on the outside, impeccable on the inside. Comment if you loved these etiquette tips. Your friend Duchess Dollars will be here every day to teach you to live like the queen you should be. After all, an intelligent woman looks out for her interests, because being self-interested is just accepting what you deserve.